And we are back with segment number 2 of the Cummins Real Estate Group show. It's Curtis Pope, of course, with Michelle Cummins and our special guest today. And my question for you, gentlemen, is what is the difference between a buyer inspection and a seller inspection?
Well, that's a good question. Actually, there's absolutely no difference. It's just that the intent is different and the target market is different. A buyer inspection is done for the buyer and the buyer's agent. And the intent is to let the buyer know what's all the deficiencies with this house so they can make an informed decision. When we're doing a seller inspection, the intent is completely different. The client is different as well. The client is either the seller or the listing agent. And the idea is to actually let them know what's wrong with the house so that it gives them an opportunity for them to fix a few of those items. But really the main goal here is to facilitate the sale of the home, the same way staging would do or real estate photography.
You know, because it's such a new concept, this pre-inspection before you list, I got to think some of the consumers, and I've heard some of their feedback, is they're a little concerned about having an inspection. What might you find? They're a little bit worried about it, and you know, the job as a realtor is to help them through the process, and it's to show them that there's value in this. Let's identify what the issues are. Let's get them fixed, or at least get estimates for them. And it's going to make the whole process much more smoother. There's a lot of stress these days for buyers. I mean, we're in a market with a lot of uncertainty, and really, the realtor is your trusted advisor. And so, right off the bat, I think the best thing to do is sit down and get the inspection.
Yeah, as a seller too, there's a lot of times, you know, you have an offer and they're scared. Maybe something will come up in the inspection. So sometimes they say, you know, when I'm working with buyers, the seller's agent says, you know, the seller's not going to renegotiate the price if anything comes up. And they don't even know if something comes up. They're just scared. And if something does come up, it could be a true concern. So,
you know, one of the biggest mistakes that we make on inspections in this whole buying and selling process is in the past, people have waited till the last minute to get the inspection. So they arrange for their financing, they get some insurance for the home, they check out the neighborhood, and then they hire their inspector on the last day that the subjects are supposed to come off. And all of a sudden, a couple of things are identified. Now all of a sudden they have no idea what these are going to cost, and it's all taken them off guard. And sometimes we're up until midnight renegotiating prices or trying to figure out what something would cost to fix it. This takes that risk out of it because it's done up front. And as a good listing agent, if there's things identified, David would identify, I'll get estimates. If the consumer, the home seller, doesn't want to fix it, I'll get them peace of mind. I'll get 2 or 3 estimates. Let's say that drain tiles are identified as a potential issue. Well, then we're going to maybe take the next step and put a camera down there, or we're going to get them cleaned out, or we're going to call Roto-Rooter and get them thoroughly flushed, or we're just going to get estimates for what it might cost in the future to replace drain tiles.
Because the seller may not have the cash to be able to fix these things, but it's all about disclosing to the buyer, and if you do disclose everything that may be wrong and how much it would cost to fix, there's a different attitude for the buyer. There's an appreciation to the seller, so there's a better relationship there, and it makes the buyer stronger and less stress, because it is the most stressful thing. I think it's number 2 of the most stressful things that we humans go through is like buying and selling.
Now I'd like to know what number 1 is.
Yeah, so would I. That's kind of crossing my mind. It's doing a show with Michelle, actually. It's a little
I wonder if
fact.
she's going to say marriage.
Kids, I'm not sure. I wonder what that number 1 is. Somebody get a Google thing going.
That'll
here.
be the next show. You'll have to listen in.
Okay. Oh, we got a teaser going. I like that.
I wanted to point out that even though we're the only company around that specializes in pre-listing inspections for sellers to facilitate the sale of the house, we do have also options for buyers. So if I do a pre-listing inspections on one of your listings and the buyer wants to be protected by the inspection, they can either hire their own home inspector or they can hire us for half the price. We call them on-site reviews. We go back on site with the buyer, we go through the report, show them the deficiencies.
And now you're working for the buyer.
Exactly. And now they sign the agreements and they're protected by the home inspection as if they got their own home inspection. So, we offer solutions for both. So even if the house is pre-inspected, we can still protect the buyer.
So we were talking about some concerns. David, what's the biggest concern that sellers have about this inspection, pre-inspection?
Yeah, like the number 1 insurance claim is water entry. Water entry through the roof or plumbing leaks, it's always a number 1. In British Columbia, everything that was built prior to 1995. It's got lots of polybutylene. They have issues with this, and there's a lot of water issues here and there. But yeah, that's mostly the one. Then there's electrical. There's a little bit of structure, the foundation, all that. We look at everything. We go from the outside to the inside, attic, foundation. You know, a seller inspection is the exact same thing as a buyer inspection. The goal is that if the buyer does get a home inspection, that their report are very similar. So it will reinforce trust and credibility. They'll know that the listing agent's not trying to hide anything. Everything is upfront. So that trust really helps as well to sell houses.
And this is the first time I've met you, actually, and I'm glad I did, and I mean it when I say I want a business card later on. But Phil, you've used David's services, haven't you, for your sellers?
Yeah, and you know, one of the things is, one of the benefits is that David inspects the house, looks at the house. The owner may have bought this house 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and that's the way he bought it. And he hasn't done anything, he hasn't changed anything. Sometimes David would identify something that's a little suspicious, and he'll go, I'm not sure if this addition was done properly. What addition are you talking about? My seller bought the house this way. Then it's a red flag. You attend City Hall and you find out you're selling a 1,600 square foot house on the main, but the building plans only show 900 square feet. So someone's done an addition or alteration without the required permit, and it's identifying the risk, and it's taking the risk out of the listing agent who may get sued, or the seller that may get sued. So now you're disclosing, hey, at some time along the line, this was extended. Another great tool that I find useful is open houses. So open houses on a nice sunny day, like we're having, that could be 30, 40 people come through. It's hard to distinguish who's a real buyer. They all look interested. We've got a flyer up there that allows them to download David's inspection, okay? So now the buyers that are writing down and keying in his inspection report, that's a signal for me. That's a lead that there's a real buyer.
And you get notification that they downloaded it.
And we get notification that they downloaded it. And it just gives you another tool. Like, you can't follow up with 30 or 40 people. And you can't tell who's really, everyone looks serious these days. Some people are remodeling, some people are just curious neighbors.
Some people act like